You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Norma, no mates. When it comes to a man, he's a Billy, no mates, and when it's a woman, it's a Norma, no mates. Harry's wife is a Norma, no mates. This state of affairs comes for two reasons. The first, she's not truly friends with anybody because she regards people as objects. Friends, subconsciously, are non-intimate secondary sources in her fuel matrix. They are there to be controlled, and they're comparatively easy to control. Their fuel provision is decent, the potency moderate. She can gain character traits from those friends, and friends also provide residual benefits. Commonly for the mid-range narcissists, they form part of the facade, meaning the friends are largely treated well, and therefore this makes the narcissist look good. Those friends form part of the coterie, doing things for the narcissist, making the narcissist look good by talking complimentary terms about the narcissist. Most narcissists keep their friendship groups fairly similar. Some people are painted black, most remain white. The friendship group, depending upon its size, remains largely the same. Sometimes people are swapped in and out, new groups might be moved into, but for the most part, the narcissist keeps a friendship group of a fairly consistent nature. The reason being is that the individuals within the friendship group, those non-intimate secondary sources, are subjected to the shelf dynamic, meaning the narcissist only interacts with them intermittently. The impact of this is that those appliances are less likely to cause a problem for the narcissist and thus result in being devalued, and certainly less likely to be disengaged from. And furthermore, they are less likely to see shitty behaviours of the narcissist, causing them to think, why would I want to be friends with this person? Their limited exposure to the narcissist aids with the longevity of maintaining the friendship. Remember, of course, it isn't a friendship in the true sense. It is a transactional arrangement for the narcissist to acquire what they need from those friends and to use those friends with regard to triangulation concerning other people. The second reason why Harry's wife doesn't actually have any friends is that because she is inherently boring, humour-free, lacks charisma, and more people recognise that she's not a very nice person. As I've told you before, the problem that she has is that her narcissism isn't up to the job of keeping her in the position that she's got to. Namely, her various errors, transgressions, faux pas, all become amplified on a world stage. She became famous, but unlike more sophisticated narcissists who do very well at keeping their shadowy side away from the general public for the most part, Harry's wife hasn't been able to do this. And therefore, the odious side of her personality has come to the fore, meaning that many people simply don't want to be friends with her, and others who were friends have retreated from them, as we've heard a lot of just recently, the Beckhams being an example of that. Other people decide they're not going to be friends with her because they recognise that she is going to tarnish their popularity, that she would be an albatross around their neck, and therefore they decide, no, I've worked hard to create my brand and my popularity. I'm not going to let this grifter fuck it up. Accordingly, Harry's wife is eminently unlikable, and she functions on the basis of having no true friends because that's the way that her narcissism operates. She uses people. We have, by way of photograph, which came from the account of De Moi, which shows Harry's wife attending lunch. And those good burgers of St. Harry's wife, that an individual has recognised that she is having lunch with Jill Smoller, who works for WME and is Serena Williams' agent. This points to another aspect of Harry's wife's life as a Norma No Mates, is that often the only people that she gets to hang out with are people who are either paid by her staff, or people who have a vested interest in her in terms of trying to turn a turd and polish it. Lacking charisma, as I've mentioned, lacking any redeemable features, most people would not want to be friends with her. Indeed, many of the so-called friends have found themselves disengaged from her as she's moved through the various strata, as I've explained before. And therefore, this shows another aspect of the way that Harry's wife behaves, is that because she lacks those essential ingredients to draw people to her, and that her behaviour has become so prominent that people think, I don't want anything to do with her, it's often the case that the only people that she has around her are people who are her staff. So people who work for Archwell have often been seen out there having lunch with her and shopping with her. And the only reason they're there is because they're employed by her. Otherwise, I am pretty certain that those individuals would say, no, I wouldn't want to spend time with her. I just have to because she's my boss. And other individuals do so because she's a client, such as the case with WME. Now, you may think, what a sorry state of affairs. Imagine being like that people don't like you, and the only people that you can have around you are your flunkies, people employed by you, and people who are contracted by you, who are providing services to you, who might have a vested interest in what you have to offer. That's it. What a sad existence. And it is. But Harry's wife doesn't realise that because her narcissism blinds her to it. If you were to sit down with Harry's wife and say, look, here's a list of all the people that you've fallen out with. Your dad, your half-sibling, your half-brother, all of these people who you were once friends with. Here are all your in-laws as well. Do you not see that you're the problem? That's what it all has in common. You. Her narcissism would cause her to explain, well, my dad did this to me when I was young, or he tried to merch my wedding by involving the paparazzi. My sister's an absolute lunatic. My brother's a nasty piece of work. My father-in-law, yes, I know he walked me down the aisle, but he was only doing that for his own needs, and he's just part of that whole racist setup. And she would go through every single name on that list and explain to you why she doesn't bother with them, because they're essentially horrible people and she's the victim. She doesn't sit there and think to herself, do you know what? Nobody bothers with me anymore because I'm a nasty piece of work. The only people that will actually give me the time of day are those that work for me, or those that I've contracted in some way, like my agent. She just doesn't see it. And even in the picture that you can see on your screens, it's rather entertaining, because there she is probably staring at her phone and being rather rude. One ought to abide by the rule of no tech at the table. And therefore she's absorbed in looking at something on her phone rather than speaking to the people around her. And as always, I suspect the gentleman in the suit in the background is positioned as a bodyguard, because after all, she is just so important. There's hordes of people who might want to get to her. There aren't. Most people would just think, oh look, there she goes. And they're not interested in approaching her. But remember, Harry's wife thinks that everybody wants to be with her, be her, and in some instances cause harm to her, all generated by the way that the delusion operates within her narcissism. An excellent example from just a picture of how Harry's wife is a Norma No Mates, which provides me with the basis for expanding on why that is the case in relation to her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.